of economic prosperity and decline. By raising or lowering the costs and rewards of projecting power, megapolitics governs the ability of people to impose their will on others. End quote. Unlike man-made political institutions, megapolitics exists outside the realm of conscious direction. Davidson and Rees-Mogg describe the four basic types of megapolitical forces as being topography, climate, microbes, and technology. Of these four, technology is described as, quote, having played by far the largest role in determining the costs and rewards of projecting power during the modern centuries. It is the author's belief that the emergence of cryptography in conjunction with the borderless jurisdiction of cyberspace is poised to drastically alter the logic of violence and therefore shift the balance of power from the state to the individual. In the past, massive and expensive armies were needed to secure large amounts of wealth. Today, thanks to the invention of Bitcoin, wealth can be stored in the brain of any human being simply by memorizing 24 words. Instead of needing to rely upon state-run institutions to uphold property rights, wealth in the 21st century will be protected by unbreakable cryptography, or in other words, pure mathematics. Listen to the authors describe in detail the eventual emergence of what they call cybercash, and keep in mind that all of this was written in 1997. Quote, now the advent of the information age implies another revolution in the character of money. As cyber comes to determine who becomes a sovereign individual. A crucial part of this change will come about because of the effect of information technology in liberating the holders of wealth from expropriation through inflation. Soon you will pay for almost any transaction on the net at the same time you place it using cybercash. This new digital form of money is destined to play a pivotal role in cyber commerce. It will consist of encrypted sequences of multi-hundred-digit prime numbers. Unique, anonymous, and verifiable, this money will accommodate the largest transactions. It will also be divisible into the tiniest fraction of value. It will be tradable at a keystroke in a multi-trillion-dollar wholesale market without borders. End quote. Bitcoin has turned this 1997 prophecy into a reality. Bitcoin will be the most important tool in the arsenal of the 21st century sovereign individual, impervious to confiscation by a theft and inflation, and open to all human beings on Earth with access to the internet. The rise of Bitcoin represents the rise of the sovereign individual. Sovereignty in this context is a zero-sum game. When individuals gain sovereignty, the state necessarily loses sovereignty over them. As citizens continue to take advantage of new technological innovations, institutions will naturally struggle to reclaim power. We are not only seeing this with Bitcoin in the form of propaganda-style attacks launched by many central banks, but we are seeing it in legacy media as well. In the words of the sovereign individual, quote, the mass media will become individualized media. No longer will you be at the mercy of Dan Rather or the BBC for the news that reaches you. You will be able to select news compiled and edited according to your instructions, end quote. With the rise of alternative, independent, and social media, the mainstream media has never held less power than it does today. Legacy news organizations are so desperate for significance that they do not hesitate to lie, manipulate, and sow fear and hatred amongst its viewers in exchange for cheap clicks and views. So many of the biggest issues in society are kept alive by the mainstream media's incessant desperation for relevance. CNN's recent spat with Joe Rogan provides us a real-time example of legacy media's waning influence. Joe Rogan, a single man, was able to expose CNN's blatant lies about him by the simple virtue of he himself having a larger audience than CNN. We are entering a world where all voices will have the opportunity to be heard. The internet is providing each human being a chance to live up to their full potential. Geography, social class, gender, and other labels are no longer limitations in the new digital world. The internet doesn't care what you look like. If you are able to provide value, you will be rewarded. As fascinating and impressive as the author's use of logic to accurately predict many aspects of our modern life, perhaps equally fascinating is their ability to look into the deeper, more mysterious patterns of history. Quote, giggle if you will, but we do not despise or dismiss intuitive understandings of history. Although our argument is grounded in logic and not in reveries, we are awed by the prophetic power of human consciousness. Understanding the way the world works means developing a realistic intuition of the way that human society obeys the mathematics of natural processes. Reality is non-linear, but most people's expectations are not. To understand the dynamics of change, you have to recognize that human society, like other complex systems in nature, is characterized by cycles and discontinuities. This means certain features of history have a tendency to repeat themselves, and the most important changes, when they occur, may be abrupt rather than gradual." End quote. The pattern they are referring to is a curious 500-year cycle which seems to correlate with paradigm-shifting events in Western civilization. Beginning in 500 BC, the emergence of Greek democracy and philosophy laid the foundations of Western civilization. The birth of Christ in 4 BC during the height of the Roman Empire set the stage for Judeo-Christian values becoming the bedrock of Western culture. 5 centuries later, in 500 AD, the fall of Rome would lead to the Dark Ages in Western Europe, a period of institutional collapse and lawless disarray. 1000 AD marks the beginning of a period now known as the Middle Ages, in which commerce and literacy were rediscovered. In the words of an 11th century historian, the turn of the millennium shook off the tatters of antiquity. 500 years later, around the year 1500, the Renaissance, the Reformation, and the discovery of the New World all contributed to what we view as the commencement of the modern era. Now here we sit, 500 years later, in the very early stages of the 21st century. Technological advances are being compounded exponentially. The era which gave birth to our modern notion of the nation-state around the year 1500 is coming to an end. As the balance of power shifts from the institutional level to the individual level, you would expect the legacy system to tighten its grip. And this is exactly what we're seeing. Simply questioning the official story
Okay, I
given by
was
the
wrong
state or
there.
mainstream media
I should have said
results in being
Zulu,
labeled a dangerous
not cylinder.
Attempting to create a dialogue about important issues on social media results in censorship and re-education. Suddenly, the inalienable right of bodily sovereignty encoded at Nuremberg is being revoked by governments throughout the world. Citizens of many countries are literally trapped within their borders, unable to leave unless granted permission by their government. Innocent Australians are being removed from their homes and shipped in buses to internment camps, where they are being held in isolation and then hunted down when they try to escape back to their families. Unable to fund these operations against their citizens via transparent taxation, governments and central banks throughout the world have resorted to printing exorbitant amounts of money, resulting in the highest inflation in decades. The mainstream media tells you this is all normal. The government tells you this is all normal. The big tech monopolies tell you this is all normal. However, to anyone paying any attention at all, it is becoming abundantly clear that the emperor has no clothes. As unsettling as all this may be, it is all part of a natural process. Metamorphosis requires death and rebirth. Old institutions are dying, and the madness we are witnessing all around us is simply evidence of their accelerating decay. Just as Gutenberg's printing press broke the Catholic Church's monopoly on information 5 centuries ago, Bitcoin is poised to break the state's monopoly on money. The stage is already set. Insolvent governments will continue to print money in an effort to maintain control over their subjects. The savings of millions of responsible people throughout the world will be wiped out as the value of paper trends towards zero. Many unwitting people will go down with the ship, but for the rest of us, a bright orange lifeboat awaits.
Read these books. That's why you must, Bratan. Some books entertain, and some books ignite the fire in you. These books were feared, banned, or buried. They aren't safe. They will change you, especially the last one. Fully wake up, or go back to sleep. It's your choice. Number 1, The Gulag Archipelago by Alexander Solzhenitsyn. It is a story about a man who faced the full fist of the state and didn't break. A record of Soviet prison camps written by someone who survived them. The book was erased, censored, and hunted in the communist world. Solzhenitsyn was exiled His words were smuggled out page by page. Why? Because it showed that tyranny doesn't begin with violence. It begins with normal people who stay silent, look away and obey orders. This book gives you courage. Read it, and you'll never kneel again. Number 2, 1984, by George Orwell. It is a story about a world where truth is against the law, and your thoughts are not your own. History gets rewritten, and obedience is the highest virtue. 1984 was not published in the communist world, and even in the West, schools and institutions tried to shut it down. Too dark, too real, too close to home, Bratan. Once you read this, you stop trusting the news, and you start listening to your instincts again. Number 3, The Sovereign Individual. It is a story about the collapse of nations and the rise of the free individual. A roadmap for the digital age, written before Bitcoin even existed. No country banned it officially, but it was buried by media, ignored by schools, and dismissed by experts. Because it says clearly that the Suki elites don't want you to understand. You don't need them anymore. You never did. Read this, and you start building your exit. Number 4, The Creature from Jekyll Island, by G. Edward Griffin. It's a story about how the Suki bankers created the Federal Reserve in secret, and how they've been controlling your money ever since. It was never banned by law, but it was mocked, censored by algorithms, and blacklisted by economists. They called it conspiracy. Very convenient. This book holds the mask of modern economics, and you never see by Aldous Huxley. It is a story about a world where no one is oppressed, because everyone is drugged, distracted, and entertained. Ireland begged for being anti-religious. The Westerners tried to remove it for decades. Why? Because it showed that pleasure can enslave better than fear. This book reveals the soft prison, one made of comfort, not of chains. The one you are living in today. Number 6, Fahrenheit 451, by Ray Bradbury. It is a story about a fireman who burns books until he decides to read one. A world where knowledge is illegal and screens keep everyone quiet. It was censored and removed from American classrooms. Too much conflict with community values. Too honest about censorships. Ironically, it's a book that got burned. This one will light a fire in your mind. Number 7, Reality Transurfing, by Vadim Seeland. It's a story about how reality isn't fixed. It flows with your thoughts, energy, and attention. A metaphysical manual for stepping out of the matrix and shaping your own life. Mainstream science ignores it. Too mystical, too independent, too dangerous to system of control. Because it teaches you to stop reacting and start choosing. This book doesn't offer comfort, it offers power. But only if you are ready to take responsibility for your word. Number 8, Medical Nemesis, by Ivan Illich. It is a story about how healing became an industry, and how that industry began making people sicker. Ivan Illich was blacklisted in medical academia. Too radical, too prophetic. This book dared to ask, what if modern medicine is the disease? just change how you see hospitals. It will change how you define health. Number 9. The Mass Psychology of Fascism by Wilhelm Reich. It's a story about how people give up freedom when they give up passion. With repressed sexuality, you become a zombie for the state. It makes us rigid, obedient, and easy to control. Banned in Nazi Germany, books burned in America. Reich was imprisoned, his ideas erased from history. This book will challenge your conditioning. It will show you that if you take some very primal emotions from people, you take their complete freedom. Number 10, The Egyptian by Mika Walteri. It's a story about an ancient physician walking through the corruption of empire, religion, and war. A novel that feels more true than history itself. Too controversial for certain regimes, too mystical for Soviet materialism, too honest for Arab nationalism. Some says Walteri didn't write it, he channeled it. This one opens your soul's memory. It tells you nothing has changed, and everything must. Number 11, The Adam and Eve Story by Chen Thomas. It's a story about the Earth's forgotten cataclysm, pole shifts, lost civilizations, a reset hidden in plain sight. The CIA classified it in the 1960s, only fragments released decades later. Why? Because it clashes with the official Suki history. This book won't tell you what to believe. It shows you that you can't believe in anything, and everything will change. And finally, of course, number 12, the Tyndale Bible. Tyndale translated the Bible into the language of the people, not for profit, not for power, for truth. The church translation used everyday English. He didn't just translate, he broke control. Do you know the King James Bible? It is censored. Tyndale's Bible preserved the Apocrypha, books like Wisdom of Solomon, Sirach, Baruch, Tobit. These texts show resistance to empire, critique religious corruption, and call for inner wisdom over ritual law. This wasn't just the Bible, it was a jailbreak. And the Word of God, the uncensored Word, will still break jails today. Especially when you read it with like-minded, powerful people. That's why we have founded the Grimm Circle. Wisdom every day to break your chains. Together. Put away your